Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing the Breitling Navitimer B01 Chronograph 41 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel. This watch is the heart and soul of Breitling. If you're going to buy a Breitling and you're just going to buy the one iconic piece, well, at Rolex you buy a sub, at Omega you buy a moonwatch, at Breitling you buy a Navitimer. This is the anchor of the entire company and its rich heritage. A pilot's watch par excellence, it is now one of the ultimate aviation enthusiast favorites because of its combination of real history and practical technical features. So at 41 millimeters in stainless steel, it's 13.8 millimeters thick, 46.9 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, and has a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw this watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see that Georges Kern, the CEO of Breitling since 2017, is keeping his promise of reducing the lug spans of the watches to make them more wearable. So this watch, being under 47 millimeters lug to lug, wears beautifully on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. And I could recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. It will fit underneath jacket cuffs, but probably not the tightest of dress sleeves. It is very comfortable and nicely sized. Taking a look at the strap, it's a sort of honey brown with a large rectangular scale alligator leather. This is unusual on pilots' watches, which generally feature a cheaper calfskin or textile, so gator skin here is definitely a flourish unexpected for this class. You could see that it's a semi-gloss finish, large rectangular scales with symmetrical scales. That's a very expensive cut. Contrasting stitch, we've got a folded edge on the bottom, signal yellow. You can't see that when the watch is on the wrist. And you can see this is a brand new Breitling factory strap, paired up with a Breitling deployant clasp. Externally, a combination of polish and satin, twin trigger release. You got to press both to open it up, so it's not friction fit. It gives you a little bit more security against accidental opening. The Navitimer, depending on who you ask, debuted in either 1952 or 1954. What's unarguable is that it was the first watch that included all of the figures and features you needed to calculate flight operations in progress. Breitling first experienced a unexpected success with its Chronomat in the early 1940s, a circular slide rule calculator chronograph, but it was not a complete flight calculator. With the addition of units and more calibrations, the Navitimer of either 1952 or 1954 gave pilots exactly that, and whether it was designed by, for, or merely endorsed alongside the AOPA, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, the link between the AOPA of the United States and the Breitling Navitimer has always been a very tight one, and that's why here we have these wings and the AOPA shield logo with all but the AOPA letters across the actual center stripe of the shield. But back to the case here. You can see we have rather thin mid-case in satin, a little bit of beveling on the lug profiles, which are polished on their top, their bevels, and their squared off ends. We have a rather sharply knurled crown that's easy to grip, even with sweaty or gloved hands. Vintage pump-style pushers that are satinated on their sides, and you can see polished on their faces. We have the Breitling B on the crown. And we have a dial that actually has two different shades of silver. You can see the silver white of the logarithmic calculator, and then inboard there's a more metallic silver. It's a little bit more gray. We have rose gold hands, indices, and those AOPA wings that are not AOPA wings. We also have a concentric pattern in each of the sunken and dished sub-registers. We have a few shocks of red that can be used for reading scale features, but also the chronograph seconds. You can also see that this watch features a B01 Breitling manufactured chronograph caliber, which has a hacking seconds function, and then also a very sharp and snappy quick set date. So let's talk about this calculator. So the way this works, we'll just line everything up real quick, is that we actually have an inner scale and an outer scale. And most of this is going to be used to perform multiplication and division. So you can calculate fuel consumption, drift, airspeed, rate of climb, all sorts of things that are useful. Ground speed can be calculated, but basically this is how it works. If you want to divide something, let's say you want to divide 8 by 2, it works exactly like a fraction. You take the 80, You line it up over the 2. This is where you have to keep your decimals in mind because it's not going to give you that. 8, 80, 800, 8,000, it could be any of the above, but let's say we're dividing 8 by 2. You put the 8 over 2, and then you go to the index. The index is this little 10 on the inner scale, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Very simple. Now, let's say you want to multiply. Let's say we want to multiply 5 by 2. Well, you put the 5 over the index now, and you work backwards. So now we're multiplying 5 by 2, so we're going to go over to 2, and of course, multiplying 5 by 2 on the outer scale, that gives us 10. Easy. Once you get used to this, you'll be able to beat your friends at the restaurant calculating the tip while they're still fumbling with their phones. The watch, of course, has Lume. We'll take a quick look at that. And it is easily read in the dark. Turning it over, you can see Breitling's caliber B01, which launched in the 2009 Chronomet series and was not initially intended for display casebacks. Fortunately, it's actually a pretty good-looking automatic chrono movement, and that's not universal in the genre. It's an automatic winding column wheel chronograph with a 70-hour power reserve. You can see the column wheel in action, and it has one of the best column wheel feels in the business. I mean, really good. It puts the likes of Longa and Patek and Rolex on notice. Sounds as good as it feels. It's also a vertical clutch system, so when you engage the chronograph, look at the seconds hand. It doesn't jump or leap the way a seconds hand will with a lateral clutch. That's the advantage of a vertical clutch. Another advantage, if you want to leave your chronograph running full time with the vertical clutch, there's no additional wear and tear to the watch. All this is 30 meters water resistant, which is consistent with pilot's watches. That's usually the standard. It's a 47 joule movement adjusted in 5 positions and is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer. You can see it also features Breitling's own unique micrometric regulation system, although Edachron for beat error and fine timing does come into play. And it's just a good looking movement that's nicely sized for this 41 millimeter case. It has a 4 hertz beat rate, so it's a modern high beat, so 28,800 vibrations per hour. So you've got a nice sweep in smooth fashion of the chronograph seconds hand. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.